Maryland football will be a freshman-led team.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I think that Maryland football is going to be a freshman-led team. Very rarely in college sports do you say that a college football team is going to be freshman-led. It just doesn't really happen. It's not really much of a thing. And you think college football, you think of juniors, seniors, maybe sophomores are the people that are making a big impact and are the people that are kind of getting it done. But to me, I honestly think that the Terps could be a freshman-led team this year. There's a lot of different things I'm hearing. There's a lot of different places of impact for the freshmen. And I'm really starting to accept that this team might be a freshman-led team, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think if you're a bad team, the only bright side to it, the only good way to look at a bad year is if you have a bunch of young guys playing. It's the only good way to look at it. Like, think about any sport at any level when you look at the team and you're like, let's say in any college or NFL or professional sport, think about it. NBA has a bad year. NBA team has a bad year. Like, let's take the Wizards, for example. What's the bright side? What do people look at it and are like, they're still a really young team? Or if an NFL team has a bad year and they're not young, people are like, oh, well, their future looks really bad. Or a college team, if they have a college football team, if they have an A year, but they're playing a bunch of freshmen and sophomore everywhere, a lot of people are going to still be excited about the future, are still going to be excited for what can come. And so I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. But if Maryland football is going to be bad next year, I think the main thing is you better be bad while also getting a lot of guys experience, getting a lot of guys playing time. This star-studded 2025 class better continue to get better continue to get in a place where they can play, better continue to get ability where they can play. You don't want to have it as a situation where you're playing a bunch of old guys, but they're still not playing well. But I think this year's Maryland team, I'm unsure. I still am trying to figure out how good is this team actually going to be. I think a lot of people are asking that question. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out this Maryland team. How good is it? How bad is it? How many guys do they have? How many guys can reasonably contribute? I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out. But to me, I think that it's pretty clear that a lot of the freshmen are going to have an impact on this Maryland team. And I think that's okay. I think when you look at this team, I don't think anybody expects this team to be a college football playoff team or a top 10 team in the country. Hopefully we get there one day. Don't know if that'll ever happen, but I just think it's going to be a freshman-led team. When you look up and down this roster, when you look at where the players are, I really believe that this is going to be a freshman-led team for the Terps. You start at the quarterback position, the most important position in sports. Whenever your team is already potentially starting a freshman, a kid in Malik Washington, who I feel like it seems like there's more and more momentum for him to start, for Malik Washington to start. And this is like the first and the biggest example of this team possibly being freshman-led. And we're not 100% sure about it yet, but a lot of us think that Malik Washington is going to start, including me. And if Malik Washington starts, it's a freshman-led team. It's literally a freshman-led team. And I don't just mean it as in terms of like, oh, we're playing a bunch of freshmen. Our quarterback, who's our leader, who's going to lead us, who's going to take us into battle, who we're going to play for. Everyone knows the quarterbacks. You're going to be kind of your guy when it comes to the leadership, when it comes to those different things, the face of your team, the face of your college football team, the face of your franchise, high school, college, NFL. Everyone's going to ask who the quarterback is. And there's a good chance that a freshman leads us. in that category. There's a good chance that a freshman is our leader in that space. And so I look at Malik Washington and I'm like, that he's going to be leading us as a freshman. More than likely, I think. I would say more than likely. Some people might have different opinions on that, but I think more than likely he will lead us. And so right there and then you look at this Terps team and you're like, this looks like it's going to be a freshman-led team. It looks like it's going to be a freshman-led team. So I think that right away you look at the Terps. If no other position group plays a freshman, my point is still pretty true if Malik Washington is the leader of this football team. And yeah, it's scary in terms of this year. And you might look at the Maryland schedule and say, this is a really good opportunity for Maryland to make a bowl game, even not with the best roster possibly. A lot of people are saying this roster is the worst in the Big Ten, but it's also really exciting. It's a really exciting thing that you have a 4-star rated recruit, a top 50 recruit, one of the best quarterback recruits in that 2025 class, potentially could be playing as a freshman. So that's the biggest reason why I say this Maryland team's a freshman-led team more than maybe any other team in the Big Ten. But there's other guys at other spots that I really believe is a big reason why this is going to be a freshman-led team this year for the Terps. Another position group you look at, or another player that you look at that makes me be like, yeah, this is going to be a freshman-led team is Jalen Gilchrist. I think there's a real possibility that Jalen Gilchrist is actually playing early. And it's a rare thing on the offensive line to be able to do, but I do think there's a world where he gets rotated in early, he plays early, he gets some times. I definitely think that's a possibility from Jalen Gilchrist being one of the top interior offensive linemen. Wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets some playing time early on. Another potential for a freshman to lead us, another potential for a freshman to play. I know it doesn't normally happen on the offensive line. That's not usually a thing. You don't normally play freshmen, but I think Jalen Gilchrist has a chance to play early on the offensive line and really make an impact there. I'm not sure how that's going to go down. I'm not sure how exactly that's going to happen, but I do think Jalen Gilchrist has a chance to make an impact there, to play there some. So I'm definitely looking forward to him making an impact on the offensive line. That's another place that could be of freshmen playing. And you look on some of the guys on the back end, I totally expect Messiah Delholme to play some at safety. I totally expect him to play. The 4-star rated recruit, one of our top guys, ranked as one of the top athletes, but comes in as a safety in that 2025 class. Totally expect Messiah Delholme to get some playing time. Another area in the secondary where I expect a kid to get some playing time, to get some experience, and to make an impact on our team this year. And that's another place. So you look at it already and you're like, okay, you got a quarterback that potentially could be starting as a freshman. You could have somebody up front who could end up winning the job and maybe becoming a starter, or maybe just being rotated in. And you look at the safeties and it's similar. Rotating in, Maryland likes to play a lot of different guys, or gets a job early on. And then you continue to go down, and then you go to Zymir Smith, who's projected to be a wide receiver. I guess I still don't know exactly what he's going to be. Another area where Maryland could actually end up playing one of the young guys. I totally expect Zymir Smith to be on the field. I totally expect Loxley to find out ways to get Zymir Smith the ball, to do different things with Zymir Smith. I 100% expect that. Another place, so you look at it, receiver is going to have a kid in Zymir Smith that could end up being a gadget for Maryland. Bryce Jenkins on the defensive line, 4-star, could get into the rotation. So there's so many different players that I expect to potentially play, to potentially rotate in. You talk about quarterback, you're talking about the offensive line, you're talking about some in the secondary, you're talking about receiver, you're talking about the defensive line. And then I think this is what brought it over the top for me, where I was like, yeah, we're a freshman-led team. Freshmen are going to dominate this year for the Terps. Freshmen are going to be a huge part of this. Is Sidney Stewart. I read an article about Jeff Erman saying he thought that Sidney Stewart could, I talked about it yesterday, could potentially be one of the best defenders on Maryland's team this year, which is honestly really interesting, which is really exciting. But another freshman, and Sidney Stewart doesn't get some of the recognition that some of these other guys got. He went to Concordia Prep. a Towson kid. But apparently, Sidney Stewart has been making a name for himself. Apparently, he's been making a name for himself. Apparently, he's been looking really good throughout practices, and we'll see what actually happens. But Jeff Furman didn't just project him to be like a good player. He projected him to be a top 5 player on Maryland's defense. So if he's coming off the edge and potentially playing a ton, potentially even starting at the edge spot and making an impact, and one of the guys that is one of our top defenders, and then you have Malik Washington's our most important player on offense, you could have 2 freshmen potentially making huge roles, and you have these other guys filling it out. And I just think when you look at this 2026 class or 2025 class, it's going to be freshman led. I think it's going to be freshman led. I don't know exactly how much they're going to play. But I think when we look back at this year, we're going to maybe be disappointed. I'm not saying we will be, but maybe be disappointed from the results of the year. Maybe we only get 5 wins. Maybe we don't make a bowl game, or maybe we barely make a bowl game, or whatever the case is. But I think we are going to be really excited about the future because we have a bunch of freshmen last year that played at a high level, that showed a lot of potential, that now we believe this Maryland team can do some stuff, that this Maryland team is going to have a chance, an opportunity to play some high-level football and do some different things. So I am looking forward to it. I do think that it's not necessarily a bad thing that the Terps are freshman-led. I think it's a good thing, but I do think that it's a real opportunity for Maryland football. Let's talk about the top 5 offensive guys next year for Maryland football in this coming football season. We'll talk about that and who I think they're going to be. We did D guys yesterday, and next. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You've already watched the following action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching about riding in the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get 115 bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So I'm going to go over my top 5 O guys for this coming season. This will be quick just because I don't want to be too long with this, but I do want to name my top 5 O guys for Maryland football this coming season. We did our top 5 D guys yesterday. So I'm going to start at number 5. Number 5 to me, I think Malik Washington is going to be our 5th best offense guy next year. I think he's going to start. I'm looking at this projected Maryland depth chart that I'd like to look at just to get an idea. It's not perfect, but it gives you a pretty good idea. And they actually replaced Justin Martin with Malik Washington to start, which I think is interesting. But I do think that Malik Washington is going to be our 5th best offensive player. I think it'll be an up and down year, don't get me wrong, for Malik Washington. But I think in terms of his production, what he's going to end up doing, he's going to show really big flashes. That's going to lead me to be like, yeah, he's our 5th best guy, or one of our. He could be really high as well. He could be higher. I think the lowest is 5. But if he's playing every Saturday, I think he's going to the lowest. He could be as 5 or maybe 4. But I think he's going to be elite at times this year. He's going to have bad moments at times this year, and that's just fair being a college football player. At number 4, I go to Retrell Perry. I think on the offensive line, the transfer, I think Retrell Perry is projected to be our best offensive lineman at the tackle spot, playing the most important spot at left tackle. I do trust him to be a good player. I do, and I think our offensive line could be better this year. Still don't really know. Still trying to figure it out overall. I do think it has a chance to be better than what it's been. We'll see how it ends up actually coming together. We'll see how it actually ends up playing out. But I do think that offensive line has a chance of being pretty good for the Terps. But we'll see what ends up happening. But I do think that it can be pretty good. And then we keep on moving to number 3. I have Octavian Smith. I think Octavian Smith is going to be our third best receiver or our third best player on the offensive side of the ball. There's another receiver ahead of him. But I just, based on his production, I think he's the most obvious to kind of take a little bit of a leap. And then the next player I'm really excited about is Jaleel Farouk, your number 2 player. I think Jaleel Farouk's going to be solid for us. I just think he's going to be a solid, viable target from Malik Washington. We don't have to worry too much. He's just going to be pretty good. And then I keep on moving on to our best offensive player. I think that it's going to be Dorian Fleming. I think Dorian Fleming is going to be elite. After I saw his rating on EA college football game, I'm like, that actually makes a lot of sense. I like Dorian Fleming a lot. And then I probably should have gave honorable mention to Nolan Ray as a guy that potentially could be pretty good for us as well. But I didn't do that. I probably should have done that, but I do think Nolan Ray as well is a guy that we look at that could end up actually being a top 5 player on our team and top 5 player on our offense. Now let's get into some college football ratings. I want to talk about college football, EA college football ratings. What's up with the ratings? Who's high? Who's low? We'll talk about that next. So I do want to get more into the college football ratings for EA and everything for Maryland football. So I do want to talk about those a little bit because I do think they're interesting, to be honest, and I do think that they have some type of meaning, and they definitely are fun to talk about. So we're going to play a little bit of a game of too high or too low for some of these rated players. I'm going to give my opinion if I think they're rated too high or if they're rated too low. So there's a couple of different Maryland players that they have rated. So Dorian Fleming's actually an 87. 87 for Dorian Fleming. I'm going to go a little too high. I hate saying Dorian Fleming's too high, but it just seems a bit high to me. I like his game. I like what he can do, and I like his potential, but an 87 for Dorian Fleming just seems a bit too high in my opinion. Feels like he should be closer to an 85 transferring over. And then let's move on to Jaleel Farouk. 85 overall for Jaleel Farouk. I think that's about right. I think coming off the injury, I do think he's around 85. I think he'd be higher if he wasn't injured. And then Nolan Ray at an 83. I think Nolan Ray at an 83. Nolan Ray at an 83. I feel like they gave Nolan Ray credit for last year and they're kind of projecting out. I think it's about right, but I think if I personally rated, I'd probably have him closer to like an 81, 82. Just because an 83, I feel like is a guy that came back, like started, like did some like solid things, had a pretty good year. And he played last year, but wasn't a starter. But I do totally expect Nolan Ray to take a jump up. I think Roman Hemby at the end of the day got stale for us. He got stale. He just ended up kind of being a stale player for us after a while. It just wasn't working out. He wasn't becoming what we thought he could become. And so I think that it's fair to be like, yeah, Nolan Ray has a chance to be better than Roman Hemby was at the tail end, because Roman Hemby, instead of increasing every year, was decreasing. But I do think that's interesting. And some of our top rating defensive guys, Jalen Husky at an 85 is interesting. Dante Joyner 79. I'll say Jalen Husky is about right. I think 85 is fair for him. I think he'd end up going up. Ian Thomas is a 79. I'm excited about Ian Thomas. I think a 79 is fair for him. And then to get into some more stuff, Rashad Perry is an 82, which I think is really solid for him. Any offensive lineman that we have in the 80s is going to mean a lot. So I think Rashad Perry in an 82, and I projected him to be one of our top 5 guys. So I think that's pretty good for Rashad Perry. Malik Washington's a 75, which I think is also fair. I think that coming in as a freshman at 75 is pretty good. That means you're a 4-star rated recruit. It means you have some publicity. It means you're a pretty good player. And that has you projected, and you get about 4 or 5 points better every year. That's how I remember it. So they are projected to probably finish around in the 90s, which is kind of interesting to see if that'll actually end up happening. I do think there's a good chance of that as well. So I do think those are some of the ratings that make sense. They also gave Malik Washington an 85 speed, which is also really solid. But that's kind of how I see the ratings. That's how they came together. But that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.